Hello, Saturday. Let's kick off with admin type thing. I've just blocked Paul, who's turned out to be very like Steve-O, really. Interesting, knowledgeable, but comments too often spun into provocation, just pure provocation for the sake of provocating. And that doesn't make for a comfortable comment section, so he is gone. Right. Let's kick off with these. Bahrain. Court upholds convictions on 9 doctors. Many of the nurses have been let off, but 9 doctors have been jailed for their part in the atrocities, as in they treated the demonstrators when they were demonstrating against the Bahraini royal government regime. And that cannot be right. Washington, who obviously backs Bahrain, President Obama has done something on his own, something close to his heart, probably. President Barack Obama suddenly eased enforcement on the nation's immigration laws on Friday. Now, I'm not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but what I have heard of it, this sounds a very noble thing to be doing. It's the Dream Act type things, and very difficult, very tricky, but it sounds what he is doing is very reasonable. Yeah, best leave it there. Market advisors, EFSF, so this is Europe again, but EFSF and EFSF and ESM funding explained in detail why Italy is okay with it. If you want to read the details, it's not. It's interesting. It's good to know. But what I've given you so far has been right enough. If you want to stick with that, and the shorthand version of it is that the EFSF and the ESM being the new one, when they say it's taxpayers' money and all that sort of thing that is bailing out, blah, blah, whatever it might be, generally it never is. There are guarantees, yes, from these governments in behind these two ways of borrowing. And the EFSF and the ESM borrow money from pension funds, insurance companies, whatever it might be, and then lend it on to whoever it might be. So it's really the pension funds and the insurance funds and the other type private people that want to buy this sort of paper off EFSF and ESM that are in the at risk. But there are certain government guarantees behind the EFSF and certain amounts of what I call dry cleaning tokens that are behind the ESM. And things like the ESM has now got some sort of super senior status when lending, like the IMF has. So it's a lot safer. But of course, when everything goes down, these people aren't going to be paid back, and there will be guarantees coming in to the Eurozone governments. But by that time, everything will have fallen apart anyway. So, yeah, okay. Spain, where some of this money is probably, well, is going to end up going. We know about the credit line of 100 billion, which again is, well, to me it's obvious that the scam will be that they'll try and make it so we'll only borrow 60 or 75 or something to show. I explained that before. Anyway, this is the top of a chart. Let's read it. Bert from Lancaster. This is from an English newspaper type thing. In reader comment section of the story said, I have met so many people trying to sell a property in Spain who refuse to reduce the asking price on the principle that the property is worth what they are asking, only to let it go years later for a fraction of what they were first offered. Property, like everything else, is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. Now, this is these bars going across here are the different regions of Spain, and they're pointing left with minus signs on them, and that's the property prices going down. Q4 of 2011 was about 11, and now it's about 13 national, like in the Balearic Islands, Mallorca, Minorca, 15% going down now. Obviously not good for the people owning the property, and especially not good for the banks. But we know that they are recourse loans, and you can't just send your keys back. They'll hound you for life for these loans. But of course that will come to nothing if nobody can pay them. You can't squeeze blood out of a stone. This one, number 5, is household assets split as a percentage of total assets, and how people think their assets are existing. And as Bert from Lancaster said, your assets are worth what somebody will pay you for them. And if there's a big we might find down the road that after the that people will not pay you for your assets what you thought they are worth or were worth. Down at the bottom of this one, the United States, 26, call it a quarter of the net worth of Americans is held in real estate. 75% is in other financial assets, mainly in paper. Financial assets being the light blue, making up the 100%. Very large percentage of light blue, but that's mainly the very rich people that are holding the government bonds and other fancy bits of paper. Japan, again, lots of paper being held. Those are the people holding JGBs, the government bonds, and are hoping that they will get paid out, but they probably won't. And we know the huge house boom in the United Kingdom, but even so, less than 40% of the wealth of the United Kingdom is held in house prices. 52 in France, 53 in Italy, 55 in Germany, but there at the top is Spain, with effectively 80% of their asset values, that's what they think they've got as households, held in real estate. Oops, with a capital ooh. Doesn't look good, does it? I mean, Spain is not big enough to keep asset prices high. It just hasn't got what it takes. And is the rest of Europe going to come in and try and keep the asset prices of haciendas in Spain high? For what reason? Why? Could they organise themselves to do it? When those drop, you can imagine what life is going to be like in Spain when their assets aren't worth what they thought they were, because people just won't pay them much money for them. And that's what their entire life savings is wrapped up in. To finish with this, on a Saturday I'd leave you to read it, but there are quite a few people who don't actually do looking at the presentation only, get the MP3, so I shall read it. So cut me off if you want to read it for yourself. This man sitting there casually says, no, I can't say I'm terribly concerned about global warming or urban collapse or any of that sort of thing. Off-site Bubble says, and why is that? Well, you see, I don't think these things are really going to have that great an impact on me personally. Well, why not? Because I'm so rich. He thinks he is now. But that may change. Bye.